Look, it's easy to celebrate the downfall of a guy like Nicolas Maduro. Not only was he an illegitimate authoritarian dictator, but he wasn't even a particularly competent authoritarian dictator. His stupidity and mendacity and corruption is at least in part responsible for the impoverishment of the entire nation. So let's not pretend that we miss this guy. What we can do is we can criticize the legitimacy of this action on the part of the United States, intervening in another country's sovereignty. And look, like I've said before in the last video, the United States has a long history of intervening in other countries' sovereignties. And this intervention is almost never done for the sake of making that country more free, more democratic, more egalitarian, more just. No, the U.S. intervenes in weaker countries in the interests of the United States, specifically in the interests of American companies and capitalists. So it's a little bit premature to start celebrating the end of the Maduro regime, because oftentimes these interventions on the part of the United States don't have the intended, or at least the expressed interests of what these interventions are for. So let's take a closer look at what's going on and what are the prospects for Venezuela at this point. Here's the situation. Maduro's gone. Yay! Let's all celebrate Maduro being gone, even if we have to be a little bit more circumspect about our role in that. But what has really happened? In fact, nothing. Nothing has really materially changed for Venezuela at this point, and it doesn't look like it's going to change in the near future. The Chavistas are still in control. The same institutional framework that supported Maduro is still in place in Venezuela, and it doesn't look like the Orange Dawn has any intention of going in and wiping that out, because that would really require boots on the ground, American soldiers in harm's way in a foreign country, which, quite frankly, most Americans are not feeling. So it looks like the administration is going to have to figure out how to deal with the Chavistas that are now being elevated by the ouster of Maduro. Now, will Delcy Rodriguez be a better leader than Maduro? The bar's not particularly high on that one. She does seem to be smarter than Maduro. Will that mean that she will be less authoritarian than Maduro? That remains to be seen. In this context, in the context of her relationship with the United States, if she is seen as cooperating with the United States, well, that will delegitimize her with the Chavistas who still support Maduro. So she can't do that. So to what extent is she going to cooperate with the United States? Because make no mistake, cooperation with the United States is what's going to keep her out of danger of herself being attacked. It's already basically been expressed. Well, what can she do to cooperate with the United States? Well, it has nothing to do. Right now, the Orange Dawn is not saying, hey, how about extending freedom of the press? Of course, he has no interest in freedom of the press. How about extending democracy to the people of Venezuela? He has no interest in democracy here. He's not going to enforce democracy in Venezuela. No. What's he talking about? He's talking about the oil. He's talking about the oil. He has said nothing about democracy, nothing about freedom, nothing about justice. He's been talking about the oil. So for Delcy Rodriguez to pacify the Orange Dawn, she's going to have to do what American corporations want her to do. In other words, open up Venezuela's vast resources for the sake of American corporate exploitation. That's what's going to happen. And look, it's not even really about the oil per se, because yes, Venezuela has the world's largest oil fields, but it's shitty oil, and really nobody wants it. There's plenty of natural gas, there's plenty of oil being developed right now. Prices on oil are low. We don't need any more oil in the market. And quite frankly, Venezuelan oil is way too expensive to develop. So even American oil companies are like, all right, well, I mean, we'll do something, but we're not in a particular hurry to get at the oil. But Venezuela does have pockets of coltan and other rare earths that have become very valuable. And of course, the U.S. companies are going to want to have access to those resources. And what will that mean for Venezuela? Well, Venezuela's already been there with their oil, where American companies and European companies went in, extracted the oil, shipped the oil all over the world, and then pocketed the profits and took those to their relative countries, leaving the Venezuelan people stripped of their resources and bereft of any profits that may have come from those resources. Venezuela got poorer and poorer and poorer. These are the conditions that help to elevate people like Chavez and Maduro, who, at the very least, actually nationalizing the oil preceded Chavez, but he built on it. The Venezuelan people ultimately nationalized their oil so that the benefits of oil production can go to the people of Venezuela, although this system ended up, after Chavez, being rife with corruption, that kind of, right? So this is a complicated mess, but the bottom line is the people of Venezuela do not want foreign companies to come in and own their resources, which you can understand is a valid argument on their part. Look, if the United States really wants to help the people of Venezuela, the most immediate thing that they could do to help the people of Venezuela is end the embargo, end the economic sanctions on Venezuela. Hey, Maduro's gone. This is a perfect opportunity to do this. It is a gesture of goodwill to Delcy Rodriguez to further cooperate with the United States. The Orange Dawn can say, hey, we're lifting the embargo, we're lifting the financial sanctions, we're going to allow Venezuela to restructure its debt, to get its currency back in order, and to kind of restore its financial institutions. And then maybe that might be a good first step to helping the people of Venezuela. Nobody's talking about that right now. So don't look forward to that happening. Guys, it's way too early to start celebrating the downfall of a dictator when the end result may be that he's just going to be replaced by a new dictator, or our dictator is going to be the one trying to run their country. That's not going to end well either.